Ringing it in. I do have a lot that I want to talk about today. I don't know what you have planned, but um, we could, if you want the smoke, we could start with that. If you don't want the smoke, we can start on a different note. So it's
No,
more
let's go.
it's more or
Let's
less up
go.
to you. All right. Well, I think we should start with my top 10 wide receiver list then.
Okay. Before I need you to, for the audience, describe the parameters that you had in place for this list.
I think what the top 10 lists have come down to at this point is pure laziness, in my opinion. And it's gotten to the point where it's like, oh, well, like these are the top 10 best players. It's like, okay, great. Like we know that already. So like I was trying to think extremely outside of the box and actually bring some sort of like real value to a top 10 list rather than just being like Tay Adams is good. It's like, yeah, like I know Tay Adams is good. But there's a reasoning why he's not in my top 10, and I will go over that.
Okay.
And so what it comes down to is age, your contract that you have, and just flat production. Like if you've produced, and like I think that obviously greatly matters.
And this is a list of receivers that you are taking. At least this is how you said this to me over text. This is a list that you are taking of receivers that if you were to start a franchise today.
Like if the NFL were to completely reset, these are, and I had control of every single team, this is how the list would go off, in my opinion, if I controlled it.
So before you get into it, I think that you should have added that on the thread in the initial tweet, kind of like how you made that decision, because it doesn't come across that way if you are just somebody that's taking it at face value.
But I also genuinely think that there's a point that you can kind of take this as like these, I would take these guys over guys who are quote unquote like more talented. And
I understand. I'm just trying to paint the full picture for everybody.
And so yes, I think that this is a true top 10 wide receiver list in the NFL. Not who's got the best body of work over the last 3 years, like anything like that, which I think can get kind of, I think that's kind of what people like lean on in situations like this. Like it's not that, it's literally right now going to the season, this is who I think the top 10 wide receivers are, regardless if Tay Adams was good 3 years ago with Aaron Rodgers. I understand that he's a supremely talented wide receiver. I just think he's over the hill. We'll get into that. So number 1, I have Justin Jefferson. Do you have any problems with that?
Absolutely not.
Thank you. Pretty easy. Number 2, the most dangerous weapon, in my opinion, who kind of even allowed the Dolphins to be in a lot of games and even was the only reason why they had a close game against the Chiefs in the playoffs, is because he made one play pretty much out of the entire game. Tyreek Hill.
So that's different than what you tweeted.
What?
You have CD Lamb at 2 in your tweet.
Oh, my bad. Let me pull up. I have it written down. My bad. Let me pull my tweet up here. Okay. I agree. My bad. CD Lamb. He went nuclear, legitimately nuclear last season. There was a ton of people who were kind of questioning whether or not if he was a real number 1 wide receiver. I think that he shut up everybody, obviously.
Undoubtedly a number 1 receiver. He had a fucking insane year, and he's on the verge of sitting out. And it would be dumb if Dallas didn't pay him. But also Dallas is really weird when it comes to money situations. So CD's a guy that I would want on my team at this point in his career, and I completely agree with you having him at number 2.
He crazy breakout season last year.
Insane year.
Number 3. This is what I was getting to. Tyreek Hill. I think he's literally the only reason why the Dolphins are honestly that good. He completely unlocks them. He's produced on 2 teams that he's been on, and I think that he's worth every dollar. Number 4, Amon-Ra St. Brown. This is probably the first guy that a lot of people would be like, oh, that's like a little too high for me. For me, he's not that high at all. He put up legitimate wide receiver, like true number 1 upside last season, caught a ton of passes, doesn't drop a lot of balls, great after the catch, runs great routes, good against the zone, really understands defenses and how to get open in space. And I just think that where he's at right now, he's 24 years old and his era is pointing up. Number 5, Ja'Marr Chase. A lot of people like Ja'Marr Chase like a lot more than I do. I do. I mean, obviously we're splitting hairs at this point, but I do think that he's in that like top 5 conversation. But I don't know what it is about him. I just don't love him as much as everybody else does. I'm obviously wrong on that. Just how I would probably like my receiver to play isn't the way that he plays. I guess he's more of like he's like I can see him being a little bit more like he's more physical than what I think people like play him off to be. Like he's like a guy that can break tackles, do great things after the catch. I kind of like more like possession guys, just personally.
Do you think he's closer to Debo than he is to some of the other guys on this list?
Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, sure. Closer to Debo than closer to Justin Jefferson.
I think so. Yeah. I think people would think that's crazy because he is really good, but I could also see him like not being as dominant as long as somebody. And listen, I'm not even the biggest Justin Jefferson fan, but like at a point, like you have to kind of just like respect him. He's the best. So, but yeah, I think he's closer to like Debo, who I wouldn't even have in the top 15 than he is Justin Jefferson. With that being said, he's number 5.
That's not even a knock though on Ja'Marr Chase, I don't think, because 1, you have him at number 5, and 2, like Debo's still a phenomenal receiver, and I think he does a lot of things I think he does a lot of things well. I think he's not my ideal wide receiver either, but I think if you have traces of him, it's not a bad thing if you're a receiver.
Number 6, this guy almost like looking back on this, I kind of wish I had him a little bit lower, is AJ Brown. Although he's extremely dominant and big and strong and fast, I think that his game's kind of like very one-dimensional. And when you kind of shut down what he's really good at, which is extremely hard because he went on a tear last season where that didn't matter. Nobody could stop him. But then there was also a point in time where teams kind of figured it out a little bit and he wasn't as dominant as he could have been. So I do think that he's one of the most dominant wide receivers in the game, although I think that his game's slightly one-dimensional.
You think that one dimension is him relying on the deep ball too much?
I think what he is great at is being able to make contested catches using his physicality and the deep ball.
Okay. I think I agree with you there. I think that's probably his strength.
He's great at it though.
100%. I think it'll be really interesting to see him in this Kellen Moore offense, just because I think it might lead to him maybe unlocking a side that we haven't necessarily seen yet.
Yeah.
But we'll see. As of now, I agree with you. I think he's a top 10 receiver too. And I think there's certainly validity there with him being kind of one-dimensional. To be fair, a lot of these guys are like, I think Tyreek Hill is, I don't know. I don't want to say Tyreek Hill is like a one-dimensional guy, but he's just really fucking fast. And it's not like he's going up and like grabbing
He did
passes
though
like
in the
30 like over
he
guys
did in the playoffs
consistently.
though, but he does it though.
I'm saying from a year long, he has the ability, but that's not
Yeah,
his strength is my point.
yeah. I
Like
think what
realistically, it feels like the only one of these guys that's doing that is like Justin Jefferson.
say like I think that what it comes down to with Tyreek Hill and the reason why he's ranked higher on this list, and I'll give you a reason why. Not just because he's fast, it's because you're able to get him the ball in space and he can make a play. You can create artificial touches for him and he can make a play. He can line up on the outside and run deep and make a play. He can line up in the slot and get across the intermediate of the field and make a play. I think he's extremely a complete wide receiver. He's not as big and physical, but like he can make plays like that. He's done it in the past.
I agree with you there. I think AJ Brown can do probably 3 out of 5 of those things, but also Tyreek Hill just does them better.
Yeah. I
So
think my next one kind of gets me mad. I kind of wish I put him up a little bit higher, and that's Puka Nacua at 7. I think Puka is legitimately the most like well-rounded wide receiver that we've seen come in the league in a long time. He's not flashy. Well, he is flashy. It's just like it's hard like looking at him and where he was drafted and being like, oh, that's a flashy guy. But if you watched him last season, like he was a magician. Like he made every single hard catch. He runs every route. He can go deep. He can go middle. He's extremely tough, extremely physical. He has some of the best hands in the league. And we talked about it last week. He legitimately had the best receiver rookie receiver season ever, like better than Jamar Chase, better than Justin Jefferson, shattered records that have been in place for 40 plus years. I think Puka Nacua is like here to stay, and I think that he is automatically a top 10 wide receiver with the product that he put out on film last season.
he's phenomenal.
The next one is where me and you kind of had like a little bit of a disagreement, and Tyler tweeted at me about it. Number 8 is Marvin Harrison Jr. My automatic reasoning for this is don't put off the inevitable. There's 3 receivers on this list where after their rookie year, they were elevated up to a top 10 list. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Puka Nacua. And I think that like don't put off the inevitable. Marvin Harrison Jr. is clearly going to be on the top 10 list. I think he walks into the NFL and is immediately 100 catch, 1,200 yard kind of guy for the Arizona Cardinals. He's a can't miss prospect. I've rewatched his film a few times. He's ridiculous. And I think that like there should be absolutely no reason why his game doesn't translate into the NFL. I said this to you the other day. He was in a receiver room with Jackson Smith and Jigba, Chris Olave, and Garrett Wilson, who are all first round wide receivers who have all been productive in the NFL. And everybody who has come across the Ohio State wide receiver room says that Marvin Harrison Jr. is better. I don't think that there's any reason why he won't walk into the league and make an automatic impact.
Yeah, so this was the one. Well, to be fair, when I initially saw your list, my initial disagreement was because he hasn't played. But if you're taking these guys from a brand new organizational standpoint, like I think you're in the right for having him in this list, for all the reasons that you just explained. I think my only like gripe is I don't have an like I'll always try and give a year just to make sure because we never know what's going to happen with some of these guys. Like obviously you mentioned when you and I were texting, like he could get hurt. Obviously nobody's wishing for that. I don't hope that happens, but that's always a possibility. Um, I I think that's pretty much where my only hesitation lies when I initially saw this list was because um, he hasn't played, but if we're taking it, this is a guy I want to build my franchise with day one, then yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to realistically argue that Marvin Harrison Jr. is not a guy that you don't want to have in your wide receiver room tomorrow if you're starting a team.
Yeah. And I'll obviously get a little bit more in depth to this when we get to the honorable mentions because I kind of do want to make an overall arching point. But yeah, like there are a large list of wide receivers that right now I would rather take Marvin Harrison Jr. over than that wide receiver group. Even if they've played in the league or not. Number 8, I have Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson has had quarterback hell his entire career and has been extremely successful. I think that like every single time that he has an opportunity to have a catchable ball come his way, he makes that play. He's extremely talented. He runs great routes, and I'm excited to see him have an actual quarterback so he can produce.
Yeah, this was one that surprised me, but after like thinking through it, it makes sense. He's going into what his third year,
Yeah.
and he has been productive his first two with absolute shit quarterbacks. So I get it.
Um, Number 9, DJ Moore. Um, kind of honestly, kind of the exact same situation as Garrett
Same
Wilson.
exact thing.
Is DJ Moore has been DJ Moore's low key been in the league for a pretty long time.
5-6 years.
Yeah, I mean he played with Cam Newton in Carolina, but DJ Moore's always been extremely solid, and there's been games where he has been the most impactful player on the field. He kind of fits the exact same mold as like I was talking about Tyreek Hill, where he's not as fast, but he's like closer to like that Debo mold than we're talking like Justin Jefferson mold, where you can get artificial touches for him. He's thick, he can make plays with his hands, and he can also like run every single route, play inside and out. I'm excited to see him with a quarterback upgrading Caleb Williams. But yeah, DJ Moore at 9. I love that guy.
DJ Moore at 10.
At 10, sorry. Um, Garrett Wilson was at 9. All right, and now the honorable mentions. These guys were interchangeable for me in this top 10. Other and not all of them. I think probably Zay Flowers will stay in the honorable mentions as of right now. But I love his game and think that it's going to just get better as he kind of settles into the NFL. And then these next two are guys that you could put higher up in this list, and that's Brandon Ayuk and Nico Collins. Um, I think Brandon Ayuk had like a ridiculous season last year. He had like 60 catches on like 1,400 yards. I forget what the exact number is, but something ridiculous where it was just like, that makes no sense. He's a deep ball merchant. He makes a lot of plays. There's probably about 2-3 plays a game where you like look up and you're like, how is he that wide open? But yeah, Brandon Ayuk is definitely going to continue to make that jump and make an impact for his team. He's already like, I mean, obviously Christian McCaffrey is the most important, but he's obviously already way better than Debo Samuel.
I have been trying to say this for probably 2 years now that Ayuk is the best wide receiver on that Niners team, and that if I had to take a guy of him and Debo, like to play wide receiver, like strictly just wide receiver, I'm taking Ayuk, and I got slandered for that. Not by you, but there were people that were like, "Dude, you're nuts. Why would you ever like? Why would you take that?" But one, Debo's always hurt, and two, from a pure wide receiver standpoint, you're gonna get more from Brandon Ayuk than you are, I think, from Debo. Like Debo, if you have to have like that combination guy, he's your guy, obviously, because you can hand him the ball out of the backfield. But like, if I'm only throwing you the football, I'm taking Ayuk.
Yeah. I'm right with you on that one. And then Nico Collins, he's extremely underrated at this point. Like, I think I'm a little upset that the Texans went out and got Stephon Diggs because I think that like when you have two guys like Nico Collins and Tank Dell who are like ascending, like I almost just the only thing that I hope is that it doesn't stunt or interfere with the growth of like those two players because I think that those two guys have the opportunity to be extremely special. So one thing that you said to me, like when you texted me, was like, well, Tay Adams should be on this list. And this is the entirety of the list, and how it boils down to is Tay Adams is 31 years old. He makes $28 million per year, which is literally the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Last season, he played 17 games, had 175 targets, 103 receptions, 1,144 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Versus, this is the one player that I chose from, was Nico Collins. Nico Collins played in 2 less games. He's 25 years old. He makes $1.2 million a year. He's the 94th highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. He had 109 targets, 80 receptions, 1,297 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So what I'm getting at with this list essentially is like all of that's like the game, the flashiness, and all of that is cool. But at a certain point in time, it's like, well, what if I just had Nico Collins on my team and he made literally 27 less million dollars than Tay Adams, and we don't have to give him anywhere near as the amount of targets that we have to give Tay Adams, and he's more productive. So I just think that like at a point in time, like that's where this list kind of stems from, is like the receivers who are paid the most across the league aren't the best wide receivers who make the most with their touches and who are the most productive. So this list had to like kind of round out with that, where it's like, if somebody is being more productive, making way less money, and are ascending and younger, like, yes, I think that they deserve to be on a list higher than somebody who is extremely expensive and descending in their career.
Right. And like I said, I agree with you from that standpoint of we have to taking everything into account, age, money, all of that. My rebuttal was just, if I need a guy for 1 year, no money, nothing involved, I'll take Davante Adams over some of these guys, but this would be probably one of the last years that I would do that. And I say that as well because the quarterback play from the Raiders was abysmal, and he still had a good year. And I can sit here and say confidently that I think he would have had a very equally as good of a year and had more production if he played with a better quarterback in CJ Stroud.
Bro,
I don't
he had
really think I don't
175 targets.
Yeah, but you got to think
Like,
about
it's
it.
not like
You got to think about it this way.
his
He's limited from a quarterback standpoint of what he can do. Like, he's just going to run slants the whole time, like, because these guys that he had throwing him the football were not good. You open that situation up and give him a CJ Stroud, those numbers jump off the page.
But like he's had 175 targets last year. Like, he had more opportunities.
Targets is almost what is the realm of considering a target? Like, how far out of the catchability radius is that?
I think a target is deemed a catchable ball. That's what a target
is. That what it is?
Yeah. So otherwise it wouldn't count. So I'm saying that like these guys like on this list, like that weren't hurt the entire year, had 50, 70 less, maybe even 100 less opportunities than what Tay Adams did last season, and some of them outperformed him. So I think that paying for somebody that much, and listen, bro, it's not our fault. I'm not saying it's sitting here, it's my fault that the Raiders fumbled their quarterback position, but it's
not at all.
It's definitely their fault for giving Tay Adams a 5-year, $195 million contract and making him the highest paid wide receiver in the entire league.
I completely agree with you there. Like I said, I'm taking my hyper specific example was if you don't have to do money, age, anything, it's just give me one player for 1 year and who's gonna be better for me. I think it's gonna be Davante Adams for me. But if you are factoring, and that's the lazy version, kind of how you mentioned at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
But the parameters that we actually have to take into account, which you mentioned, are age, dollars, and what was the what was the other thing? Production. Then like, yeah, it makes more sense from a team to go and get Nico Collins for the future than it does to get 31-year-old
next year.
Devontae. Yes,
Next
yes,
year.
but you're missing my point is that you're having Nico Collins for not just next year. Like you're gonna have Nico Collins getting better from next year on. Like you're gonna just otherwise it wouldn't be the same situation as what I'm trying to say. Like you're getting Devontae Adams probably at like a high level for maybe like a year, 2 more years, and then in 2 years is probably pushing it. Like you're better off as an organization taking Nico Collins next year and watching him continuously get better rather than taking 31-year-old Devontae Adams and watching him get worse.
Yes. But I even think taking into like the product on the field, if we were to just do like overall, like these are the best wide receivers from like a skill standpoint. Like I think Tay Adams is closer to being like 10 than he is being 5. So like
I agree with you. I think he's probably right around there too.
Regardless of quarterback play. So
I disagree with you there. I think quarterback play plays such a big part in this.
But we're sitting here. He had so many opportunities though to produce.
I did look at targets, and according to PFF, it's the number of times a player has had a pass thrown their way. So like that's
175
really
times.
Broad. That's a really broad.
Having 175 spectrum. Balls thrown your way is a fuck ton of balls.
Yeah, I get that. But if you're a quarterback, you're gonna step back in the pocket and you're gonna look to a guy that's been reliable for you, and who has proven to be reliable throughout his whole career. So like, I understand why he's getting that many targets, but like, if you're bouncing balls in there and throwing balls 10 yards away, like. You're not getting that with CJ Stroud on a consistent basis. Aiden O'Connell, come on.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is just have a little bit more respect for Devontae Adams.
The crazy thing is that I don't need to have any respect for Devontae Adams when I'm coming up with my 2024 season top 10 list, because he has not earned it as of right now, where I think that he is an extremely descending player and he's going to be 32 years old and he's expensive as fuck. So no, I don't think that he deserves the respect, because when he was balling out with Aaron Rodgers 3 years ago, everybody loved him. So it's just, we are in a vastly different position with a lot of these guys. It's completely fine.
Yeah. I think you're in the minority with that, but that's all right.
That's fine. I mean, if you can sit here and find people that would be like, you know what, like, yeah, I'm taking on everything included. Like I'm taking on.
That was
Tay
never.
Adams,
I never disagreed.
That would be
with
ridiculous. That would be ridiculous.
I didn't disagree with you on that.
So I'm not in the minority then.
In your specific example, probably not. No, but the one that I am talking about, as far as you need one guy for 1 year, you're taking Devontae Adams over a couple of these guys.
I guess we'll see. Hey, we'll literally watch it play out when he falls off of a cliff this season. Like we'll have that conversation.
I mean, he's gonna have what, Bo Nix throwing him the football? Like
that. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that?
I don't. Yeah, but you can't just sit here and say that quarterback play isn't important.
Whose fault is that?
It's the Raiders, but you can't say that's not important in this.
It's not.
It is.
It really isn't. If the team trusts you enough to throw the quarterback out there,
that's insane.
And play
that's
football,
an insane
then
way
like
to look at
that.
That's insane. That's lazy. Actually, that's lazy to say that quarterback play doesn't matter.
If you have a quarterback starting for you, the team deemed it and being like, this is the guy to give us the best chance to win.
Okay, but we sit here and we watch these guys play. I know, but we sit here and watch these guys play, and we can see how competent some of these guys are. And Aiden O'Connell is not.
If you sat here and was like,
Bo Nix is not.
If you're like, dude, fuck, dude, like Aiden O'Connell, like he really fumbled the bag last season. Like Tay Adams,
he was not good.
He only had 100 targets last year. He had 175 targets.
Yeah, I could technically have a target for Devontae Adams if I throw a piece of popcorn out on the field. That still counts.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Quarterback play is so important.
Okay, who's the best quarterback in the league?
Patrick Mahomes.
Does Patrick Mahomes have the best wide receiver on his team?
He has the best tight end.
Does
Yeah.
he have the best wide receiver on his team? Yes or no?
No, but you didn't put any of these guys in that list.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's why.
What's that have anything to do with anything?
But you're acting like these guys
but the best wide receivers, but the best wide
all
receivers,
of those quarterbacks are better than Aiden O'Connell,
best wide receivers in the league don't have the quote unquote best quarterback in the NFL.
All the guys that you named in that list are better quarterbacks than Aiden O'Connell.
Well, yeah, no fucking shit, dude.
So thank you. You just proved my point here.
But I'm just saying
and Devontae Adams look at his numbers last year. They were good numbers with terrible quarterback play, man.
But he had 175 targets. I would hope to fucking God that he had decent numbers.
You bounce a ball to a receiver, that's a target.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I just told you. I just looked it up.
I don't know. Like until I see some sort of like actual like I don't know. I have no clue. I thought a target was deemed a catchable ball.
It's not what I'm seeing here on any of these places.
I'll just listen. We have friends that work in the NFL. Let's just text them. Like that's literally like that's what the beauty of having friends that work in the NFL.
You're texting him right now?
Yeah, just text him. I'll let you know whatever he says. I'm just saying that like if that was the case, like what you just said, like quarterback play, like matter, I think it plays a part into it. But when you have the amount of opportunities that Tay Adams had last year, regardless of quarterback play, like he still had a extreme velocity of targets and chances to have plays being made. Like he was not successful in doing that last season with the amount of targets that he got. That is what I personally think.
Fair enough.
Especially when there's guys who have 100 less targets who were more productive than him last year. Like, but hey, it is what it is. Do you have anything else that you would like to add?
I don't think so. I think one of the things, actually I do. One of the things that came up in this was, now I personally don't have him, but a name that was brought up was Keenan Allen. I think Keenan Allen is a great receiver, but one of the discussions that I had was that Keenan Allen, this person would take Keenan Allen over some of these guys. But like I said, this was a one season discussion rather than a moving forward discussion.
Even in a one season discussion, like give me Garrett Wilson 10 times.
I agree. I didn't have Keenan Allen, and I didn't agree with this person.
Give me Brandon Ayuk 10 times out of 10 over Keenan Allen. Like no disrespect. Keenan Allen's 33 years old. Like at a point, like we are not sitting. Listen, it is extremely. Is Keenan Allen one of like the best wide receivers to play this last decade? Yeah. I'm not saying that he's not, but I'm just saying that like for the 2024 season, like he's not even going to be the number one wide receiver on the Bears. So like, why would he be in a top 10 list?
I agree with you. I had probably 12 other guys that I would take, 12, 13 other guys that I would take before 15 guys that I would take before Keenan Allen.
And listen, that's why that's the reason. The one that I kept really swinging back on was, Tay Adams was amazing with Aaron Rodgers, but like I think that like everybody can be like prisoner of the moment and like think back to like that 3-year stretch when it was just like the Aaron Rodgers and Tay Adams show, and you were betting Tay Adams to score a touchdown every single week, and it was hitting, and you wanted them in fantasy. Like you can get back into that glory day phase and be like, well, this guy was one of the best wide receivers. Like, I agree. There was a time where Tay Adams was undoubtedly like number one in the NFL, but like that is like way far in the past now. Changes every single season. I think last year he was a borderline top 10 guy. And I think after this season, this is what this list is based off, this upcoming season, I don't think that he will be on the top 10 list just due to age.
So wait, this list is who are going to be the 10 best receivers at the end of next season?
I said top 10 wide receiver list 2024 offseason. So going into this season, this is who I think the 10 best wide receivers will be.
Yeah, so 10, okay.
Like, so yes, like these are the guys who I think like throughout the course of the season will elevate their play, or some guys will stay, like Justin Jefferson will obviously stay at the top and other guys will elevate their play, and the list will look accordingly. So yes, like I said, Marvin Harrison Jr. after every single year, a rookie wide receiver really shoots up that list, and we've been lucky to have like extremely talented rookie wide receivers. So I think that like, yes, I think that there's going to be another one added to that list.
Okay. Well, then the way that I was looking at this was not at the end of the season, but like who you had in this list to start the season.
Yeah.
And I think that's what
to start the year.
Okay. You just said two different things there.
These are the guys who this year, when it starts, I think are going to be the top 10 best wide receivers. I'm betting this is the list I'm throwing out there that like I'm putting my chips in on. Like, okay, I love these guys the most.
Okay, that's different than what that's different than what you said. Because I just asked you if this was at the end of the season and you said yes, but then you just said these are going to be the best guys to start this season.
Yeah, to start this season, and who I think are going to perform for the 2024 season.
Okay, that's different than what you said. So this list is significantly better now, and my arguing point of Davante Adams is irrelevant because I wouldn't have him after this season.
But like for this upcoming season, I think
that's two different things.
Not really, like not at all. Like I feel like
it is because at the end of the season we will have seen 17 games at least.
Right, but like right now, it's the 2024 off season. We're going into
I know.
This is my top 10 list. And Tay Adams is not going to, I don't think that he will play up to the level of this guy during the 2024 season at all.
Okay, that is different than what you have been saying.
It's not, though. It's really
yes,
not.
It is. Yes, it is.
Because I said this is my it says it there, 2024 offseason list, and I said it has to do with age, production from last season, and contract.
It's different than what you said, but I understand. I get it now, and I don't have anything else to say about it, but I understand the list now.
Listen.
I think it's so difficult to put that out on Twitter because that was not super clear.
Well, like respectfully, I don't have to be clear to anybody.
I know that. I'm just saying.
I don't need. I
think for the sake of conversation and talking,
which we did.
Like I know, but it was misconstrued this entire time until 30 seconds ago.
Not really, though. I feel like that you were missing the boat on the entire wide receiver. I feel like a lot of
because it wasn't clear.
I
wasn't the only one that thought that.
I just said these, bro. At the end of the day, that's my top 10 wide receiver list. I don't give a fuck if people like it or not. Like if I'm picking wide receivers right now to be like, who do I want as my wide receiver number one going into this season, and I think is going to perform, that is the list of 10 and the honorable mentions that I am going to pick from as the top 13.
I understand.
So
I'm just saying it flip-flopped in there.
I don't think it did, but maybe somebody can comment on it and let me know if I'm smoking crack.
I mean, either way, that's why I wanted to clear this up at the very beginning, because it was kind of confusing. because you already like you said certain things. I was like, oh, okay, so this is a list for at the end of the season. These are going to be the top 10 receivers rather than who are the top 10 right now.
That is my top 10 right now.
I know, but you were flipping it back and forth throughout.
Because it's like this. I'm saying like this is my top 10 list right now, but I also am saying that like the reason why I think that is because I think that they are going to be the most productive during this season. That's kind of the point of the list. Is like this is who I'm taking currently because this upcoming season with age, contract, production is who I would start my is who I would want in my wide receiver room, not start my team with, but start my wide receiver room with.
Fair enough. I understand now.
Um, this list honestly like led me into thinking like a lot of other things where like I don't know if it'll be as severe as what we have seen with the running back market, but I said it last week, bro. This list is up for is completely like up for interpretation, and everybody has top 10 wide receivers that they love that they will throw into this list as well.
I
But
agree.
the point that I always try to get at is the reason why I made this list ultimately is wide receivers are a dime a dozen. Every single year, there are 2, 3 wide receivers that get drafted who are automatic game changers for their team. And then there's guys who elevate every single season who are ultimately game changers for their team. So I'm starting to sit here and think like you look at somebody like we're gonna see. I think that like we saw it with the Raiders and Tay Adams. Tay Adams gets paid a absolutely ridiculous amount of money. That Raiders team is brutal, and they can't afford to really pay anybody other than like Max Crosby and Tay Adams. And then on the other side of things, like I really think that we're going to see it with the Miami Dolphins this season because you bring in Tyreek Hill, you give them all that money, and then bro, look at all the talented ass people that had to walk out of that door. Xavier Howard,
They lost
Christian
so much on
Wilkins.
defense.
They lost so much on defense because that their cap is like completely like blackballed by this big wide receiver contract. And I think that the next two that we're going to kind of see play out are going to be the Minnesota Vikings and then the Bengals. I think the Vikings are going to be able to get away with it like a little bit more because they're going to, what it sounds like, they're going to be bringing in a rookie quarterback. So it kind of gives them a little bit more forgiveness. But you're already seeing it happen with the Bengals. Like the Bengals have to pay, they paid Joe Burrow, they have to pay Jamar Chase. And then you're starting to see like, okay, well, T. Higgins is gone. Jesse Bates is gone. DJ Reader's gone. Like key guys who are on their team who are going to go off and play at other places and be super productive. Like I think that like I don't know if it's going to be as dramatic as the running back contracts because I don't think that that will ever happen. But I think that there's going to be a little bit more of like a crash down to earth over the next like 3 to 5 years of these wide receiver contracts because you don't need a quote unquote highest paid wide receiver in the league to be ultra competitive like in the NFL. And I almost think that it's going to get to a point where it's going to be like, well, is it really worth paying these guys? Because you kind of see like where the highest paid wide receivers end up. And it's never really in an opportunity where it's like, okay, like they're making a ton of money, but they aren't like direct impact players on like winning games, usually more times than not. I think every once in a while it happens, but like if I were to want to pay other players, I would almost want to be like, okay, like can we take a shot at somebody like Nico Collins in the third round and him pan out, and then we can kind of build up around him. Like I think that wide receiver contracts are going to take a step back. Like, bro, like Calvin Ridley made a ton of money. Gabe Davis made a ton of money. Like those guys are making more money than I feel like they should, if that like makes sense.
No, I agree with you. Those two guys certainly haven't had the production that warrants those types of contracts in my eyes. I mean, we saw Calvin Ridley and Gabe Davis. I've never liked him, so like I would never pay that guy $1. Um, but I, it does kind of seem like I don't know. I think I think a lot of it is kind of just like case by case basis. And if you were a team that was like lucky enough to kind of get in and solidify your wide receivers before we saw these like massive jumps in pay, that I think you're in a better spot like than the Bengals will be, or than the Dolphins will be. Like when the Dolphins gave Tyreek Hill that much money, it was like it was a shock to a lot of us, even though was the best wide receiver at the time. Like paying a wide receiver that much money kind of handcuffs you, and we're gonna see that play out here. Now, who knows? Maybe they do end up getting some pieces that end up panning out, but like it's so tough because do you want to pay a guy that you know is going to be good, or do you want to run the risk of trying and find somebody in the draft and it not pan out, and then you're sitting there like, well, fuck, why didn't we pay this guy that we know what we're going to get from him, rather than going cheap and trying to find guys in the draft. Now, from what we've seen, we have seen more guys in the draft kind of jump and like, yeah, pop, but I don't know. It just comes down to, is that a risk you want to take?
I think
And how good are you? How good are you at evaluating wide receivers as an organization? Like, I think Sean McVay is a phenomenal coach, and that's probably why he had a good eye for Puka. I think the same. Who I can't remember the Vikings coach's name, but I think he's a good coach too. And it's not like picking Jordan Addison was like, we don't know what we're going to get here. Like Jordan Addison was the best wide receiver in college. So like the odds of him translating into somebody that was good in the NFL were higher than most, I would say. But it's just I think it just might come down to coaching too. Like a lot of these guys, if you have a good coach, then you can put a great game plan in play. And I don't know, we're getting a lot of talented wide receivers that might not be like, aren't the biggest name guys, but
and get the job done
at this point. Yeah. But they're still
you kind of, and
well.
I think honestly what's important to look at is like the structure of like two teams, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs and the 49ers, because it's vastly different. You have the best quarterback in the league, and then you have a quarterback where some people are completely torn on, where you don't really know what he is. But you have the best quarterback in the league, and you're like, okay, like Travis Kelce isn't even the most expensive tight end. So you have Travis Kelce. You have, it's not that like the Chiefs like didn't attempt to put wide receivers around Patrick Mahomes. They just flat didn't plan out. You trade a second for Kadarius Toney. You paid MVS a bunch of money.
They drafted Sky Moore.
Yeah, drafted Sky Moore. He wasn't good. You drafted Rashee Rice. He ended up being decent. And then you're like, okay, but then like I have like elite corners, two elite corners, Chris Jones and good O-line. Isaiah Pacheco works out in the 7th. But then you look at somebody like, because the quarterback's taking up all the money at that point, can't afford a number one wide receiver. That's why they got rid of Tyreek Hill. So you allocate those funds to everywhere else on the team. Then on the other side of things, where it's like, okay, we have a quarterback here on a rookie deal, cheaper than most rookie deals, but a quarterback on a rookie deal ultimately. Then you could be like, okay, like we have Debo, who's paid like a top 8 wide receiver in the NFL. And then we have McCaffrey,
number one running back,
the best running back. And then we have George Kittle, who's a good tight end. And then we have Brandon Ayuk on a rookie contract for whatever. And for wide receiver, then you have a great defense. Then you have great O-linemen. So I think that like me personally, I would look at teams built like those two, because over the last 4 years, they have been the most successful teams ultimately. They've been in the mix. They've played in multiple Super Bowls. Chiefs won multiple Super Bowls. And I think that those are good baselines to be like, okay, if you have a really expensive quarterback, how should we allocate these funds? If we have a very cheap quarterback, how do we allocate those funds at that point? That's the way I've looked at it, like trying to figure out like how this all like kind of like makes sense. And I think that like, okay, like if you're fortunate enough to have CJ Stroud on a rookie deal, okay, then like let's bring in Stephon Diggs on a 1-year, $25 million contract. If you have Caleb Williams on a rookie deal, let's bring in Keenan Allen on a 1-year, $26 million contract, where these guys are making high-end money, but you're not tied into them long term, and you have the extra funds to be able to pay them, and not have it be a detriment to the rest of the roster.
I think that I'm just trying to think like kind of through. I think there's more. I think the cheat code is closer to the Niners than it is to the Chiefs.
I'm completely with you,
because having an expensive quarterback that also just happens to be the best one in the league is like kind of an outlier, because Mahomes can make up for so much on a football field as long as there's some type of competency around him. And I don't think that the rest of the expensive quarterbacks, the rest of the top 10 expensive quarterbacks per se, can necessarily make up for
but you're paying them
less loss of production from your skill players.
So I guess my real quick, big counterpoint then at that point, why make them the highest paid quarterback in the NFL then? If you don't think that they're capable of doing more with less, why are you sitting there being like, let's pay this guy more than Patrick Mahomes right now? Like, regardless of cap increase, regardless of all of this stuff, like, why be like, all right, do we think Jalen Hurts can elevate the talent around him? No. Why are we paying him $250+ million?
I mean, I agree with you, but that's not how it works, unfortunately, because these teams don't want to lose the asset at quarterback, and they don't want to lose. People don't want to lose their jobs over not keeping a good quarterback in the system rather than trying to go out and find a rookie and it not panning out. Otherwise, the Cowboys would have, like, Dak has been really good in the regular season, but hasn't had the playoff success. Do you think they should have moved on from him? I don't know. That's a tough question. And ultimately, you land on keeping him because you still have a quarterback that's going to win you 10 games.
But he's never like Dak. I think that's what's so interesting about this.
And same thing with Josh Allen, too. Like, Josh Allen hasn't played in an AFC championship.
I think what's interesting about the Dak situation is what we're literally about to watch play out. The Cowboys do not think Dak is deserving of resetting the quarterback market, which is he's trying to set out to do.
I agree.
So
with the
they're
Cowboys.
the Cowboys are like, okay, like, we aren't going to give you that much money because you have never won a big game for us ever. And you've been here for a decade. So we are going to stand strong on that. And if another team is dumb enough to reset the market with you, let them do it. And then that's their mistake and their roster and their team, and your lack of success in the offseason is all of their problems now and not ours, and we start fresh. That's quite literally what's going on with the Cowboys right now, where they've seen 10 years of Dak and they're sitting there being like, Jerry Jones is like, why would we give him $265 million over 5 years when he's never gotten me an NFC championship? And I've given him.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you. But I think what'll end up happening is Jerry Jones folds and is like, I'm 97 years old, and do I have time to sit around here and wait for a quarterback to develop and the Cowboys to go back to an NFC championship game or a Super Bowl? Probably not. So who's going to be my best chance at doing it within the next 3 years? It's probably Dak.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just think that I don't think you're going to see Dak reset the market. I don't think you're going to see Tua reset the market.
You're saying reset as being the top guy.
Yes, being
okay.
Like,
what is
okay.
Like
when Jalen Hurts signed his contract, Jalen Hurts,
he was number one. Yes.
When Joe Burrow signed his contract, he reset the market. When Lamar signed his contract, he reset the market. You look at those guys and you're like, well, Dak, like, Lamar's won 2 MVPs and has won.
Yep.
80% of his games or 75% of his games or something ridiculous. Like, why would we pay you the exact same amount of money as him?
No, I agree with you. So what you think will happen, and this is probably more reasonable, is for them to pay him as like average of the top three guys, you think?
Can you leave and come back in?
Yeah, you're lagging too.
Hello?
Better.
So I think like maybe not the average of those three guys because that's still extremely high, but like I think that you're like closer to like a Kirk Cousins deal than like you are a Jalen Hurts deal. So I think it's like somewhere in between like that where it's like, okay, like I think that like teams are starting to like realize that like it's like why do we have to fold every single time a quarterback's up to get paid? Like especially
I
Dak,
agree with you.
he's never won an MVP, has never won anything. He's been successful, but like you are paying a guy a very large amount of money because you think that you can get him over the hump. And I don't think that the Cowboys actually feel that way.
No, and I don't think that they should pay him as if I don't think they should reset the market with him either because I just don't think I mean, we've sat here and said it, he hasn't had the playoff success and but at the same time like it's I don't know, it's just such a tough situation because you don't want to lose a guy that's going to pretty much win you 10 games every year. And Jerry Jones isn't getting any younger and I don't know. I just don't think I don't think it's worth it. And maybe they're finally realizing it, but I just don't know what other options they really have at this point.
Bro,
Because, like I said, they don't want to. I don't think Jerry Jones wants to sit around and, in his final waking moments, put out a team that's going to win 6 games every year
see,
until
like
he's done.
I kind of like I understand what you're saying, but I also think that I
And didn't
think
they pay Zeke? They paid Zeke like they reset the market with Zeke at one point, didn't they?
that was such a different time for running back. It really was.
Right, but
You
we're at a
can't
different time for
compare.
quarterbacks now then too.
Yeah, but I think that I genuinely deep down believe that like Jerry is like not in on Dak. Like I get what you're saying, like he's old and wants to win. I think almost Jerry's thinking a little bit of the opposite of what you're thinking. It was like I can't go out knowing that I gave Dak a 5-year $275 million contract
Fair.
because we
Yeah.
wanted to go out and win 10 games this season. McCarthy's coaching his fucking ass off, and we have really good players all around us. Because I'll let you know right now, if you go and pay Dak and CD, the rest of the team is going to be absolutely cat shit.
You have to pay Micah here too.
They're going to be bad. Like you're legitimately, like all jokes aside, going to be bad. You're going to have no money to spend. And then we've just watched it happen time and time again. And I think that like teams are going to start brightening up a little bit if you want to have like this long-term success, which has been sustained by a few franchises over the last 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Cuz I don't think they should pay him and I've said that obviously a couple times, but I just don't know. I don't know what the pivot here is for them as far
I have no
as
clue.
let me see what so what it would be 2024 free agent quarterbacks. That I actually looked this up the other day and it's not so this would be 2025, right? Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2025 class is just really bad. So, Russell Wilson, Dak, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jordan Love, Sam Darnold, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, even Trey Lance, Justin Fields. I mean, Do they go after Justin Fields if he doesn't stick in Pittsburgh?
No, I just think that what happens is all of those guys have a verdict out on them, and you go and you try to draft somebody. Nobody at this point in free agency or anything like that of those guys other than Dak Prescott,
Yeah.
there might be a team look at if there is a team similar to what the Falcons are doing. It's like, fuck, we really need a quarterback. We haven't had one in a really long time. Let's go out and get Dak Prescott because we know that he can win us 10 games. But on the other side of things, it could be like, well, we have a bunch of young talent like this, that, and the third, so we can afford to pay a guy that much because we haven't had any luck with having a quarterback. So no, none of those quarterbacks are going to get a payday because honestly, ultimately the verdict is out on them.
Yeah, I would say Jordan Love though is the only one on that list and Trevor Lawrence.
They're going to, they'll be
starting quarterbacks.
They will be, Trevor will be a Jaguar and Jordan Love will be a Packer.
Yeah, that's
there's no way they let those guys go.
No, I fully agree.
So to pivot here, unless if you have anything else to add.
No.
To pivot here is the next thing that I wanted to kind of touch on is this is my pitch, and I want you to interject as well on why the Cardinals shouldn't trade the number 4 overall pick. Because
should not. They should keep the pick.
They should not, because a report came out that the Cardinals were looking for 3 firsts for number 4. My first question when I heard that was why? At this point, Monty, he did a great job. The video came out of him working the phones last year when they traded back, and then they traded back up to get Paris Johnson Jr., and it was amazing. Good for them, but they were quite literally in a completely different position than what they were last year. They were in the number 2 position and had a ton of power. This year, they're in the number 4 position, and I feel like Monty's trying to impose that same power that he felt like he had it 2, that he has it 4, but he doesn't have it. So I think all these reports are reports, and it's like, don't get cute. The Cardinals right now have 11 picks in this year's draft. 6 of those picks are in the top 100. They have 2 first-round picks, and obviously the highlight of that is 4 overall. You have Kyler Murray under contract for 5 more seasons. You've came out and said that is your franchise quarterback. You took your tackle last season in Paris Johnson Jr. You got your guy who you wanted. He played above expectation. They had an underrated draft class last season. Everyone that they chose performed for them. So, like I said, why trade back? It seems extremely greedy. And also, the teams that are slated to trade back with them, if they traded back with the Vikings, that would put them at 11. And if they couldn't trade back up to get one of the big 3 wide receivers in Adunze, Neighbors, and Marvin Harrison Jr., in my opinion, they completely missed the boat and they don't get a wide receiver where they want. At 11, you're pretty much tapped. So, I guess, why sit there and even think about moving back when you have an opportunity to arguably take? I think Caleb Williams is probably big board number 1. I think probably big board number 2 undoubtedly is Marvin Harrison Jr. Why not take arguably the best player in the entire draft class at 4?
I mean, when I saw that report, the initial thing that I thought was this was a shot in the dark request from the Cardinals. Hey, we'll throw this out here. Do we realistically think anybody's going to give us 3 first-round picks for the fourth pick? No, probably not. But hey, this is our asking price. I think realistically, they think we're dialed in at 4. We're taking Marvin Harrison. I don't think any of these teams are going to give us 3 first-round picks to move up. And if it is a team that's going to offer you 3 first-round picks, I think it's got to be from 5, 6, or 7, 5, 6, 7, or 8. I don't think if they take if they end up accepting 3 first-round picks from somebody, I don't think you can leave. I don't think you can go past 8. I think that still puts you in a spot to take a wide receiver, although it might not be your ideal one. I'm also kind of just playing devil's advocate here.
I guess that right away is something that sticks out to me is like, even you go and grab the arguably best player in the draft at 4, you still have a first round pick and 10 other picks and
Yeah.
5 in the top 100. I think getting assets is amazing and everything, but like, you're in a position now where it's like, we need to take good players and get really, really great players in the building. And why not go get a generational prospect?
Maybe they're going with the Oklahoma City Thunder method with let me just acquire as much draft capital as possible, and somehow we'll end up hitting on every single player that we draft and be the number 3 seed in the West.
I will
That's
say,
like my only, like, literally, that's the only thing that's comparable to that situation playing
how
out.
long did that take though?
I mean, to be fair, the Thunder were
A
actually
long
like,
time.
right, but the Thunder were from that time period when they traded away like Russ. There was probably only a few years where they were bad, and that's like where the Cardinals are probably at right now. And even then, it hasn't been like a few years. Like they've still been a good team if Kyler Murray's playing quarterback for them. But also, I wouldn't recommend doing that because the odds of you hitting on every single draft pick like the Thunder did are almost non-existent.
Yeah, I'm right with you. I guess my final point to this is like, Monty, stop flexing your muscles. Take the best player on the board, and I swear to God that if they trade out of 4 and miss out on Marvin Harrison Jr., I will no longer be an Arizona Cardinals fan at all.
I think it would be a pretty stupid move if they did that. Like I said, I think that's just him asking for 3 first-round picks. I think it was just a, hey, this is what we're asking. Leave us alone. We're probably not gonna accept this
I'll
anyway.
never talk to Andrew again if they don't take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 4. It would be so sad if that happened.
I need if they don't take Marvin, I need you to go get like one of those steel barrels and put it like in your yard and light all your Cardinals gear on fire.
I will. I literally will. I'll burn my Monty jersey. Do you have anything else to add to that you think, or what they should do, or do you think they should keep it, or should we
I mean,
move on?
I think it's such an easy decision. Like I think it's such an easy decision.
Mm-hmm.
Unless like all the teams around you, I mean, the 3 teams in front of you are, even if New England trades out, the team that's in front of you is going to end up probably taking a quarterback unless
Yeah.
some wild shit happens.
Yeah, something insane. Like the Bears trade up to like 3 and take Marvin
Yeah.
Harrison Jr.
Yeah, like something, so maybe the Jets trying to move up to 3, or like somebody that could use another wide receiver on that team.
That'd be the
I mean,
worst thing to ever happen.
yeah, but like I don't
I don't.
realistically see that happening.
Yeah,
So
you're
like
right.
just go with the surefire blue chip stud and give your quarterback who's now healthy a legitimate number 1 receiver.
And then also take another pick in the first round, take 2 more picks in the second, take 3 more
Yeah,
picks in the third.
I would
Like, you're
completely
set up.
understand if they had 7 picks, but they have
Yeah.
11.
Yeah, they're set, bro. Like they have a ton of flexibility in this draft, and I think it's like, let's take the best player, and then like after that, let's figure it out. I don't care what they do after that. Take the best player and then figure it out after that.
You also have to think about it this way, like last year was pretty much just like a free year because it's not like you had your quarterback and he was healthy and he was bad. You had a backup quarterback for 9/10 of the season, and you got your quarterback who was healthy at the end and had some really good momentum going into the offseason, and you landed at the 4th pick overall. Like, realistically, if the Cardinals had Kyler Murray, they don't win 4 games that entire season. So, like, look at this as a luxury. You have an opportunity to go out there and take a number 1 wide receiver, a generational talent, et cetera, don't get cute with it, like you said. Just take Marvin Harrison, and you're good to go.
Perfect. Now, to take one step down on a pick, this is what I think the Patriots should do with the number 3 overall pick. This is my pitch to Robert Kraft, Gerard Mayo, and I forget their GM's name. He's new though.
He's the guy from the Packers.
So everybody as of right now has been saying like, oh, like the Pats should take a QB, the Pats should take a QB. Like this is what they should do. Look at what happened with the Texans. Stop everybody for the rest of time that we're alive. Throw what happened with the Houston Texans last season in the garbage. It'll never happen ever again. Ever. So like if you look back at like what the Texans situation or the Patriots situation, it's easy to like say it now, but there are a few things that I'm going to compare the Texans and the Patriots situation to. The first thing that the Texans had that the Patriots didn't have, they had assets. They had a ton of draft picks from the Deshaun Watson trade. They drafted high-end players. They had Derek Stingley Jr. at 3 the year before. They had Jalen Petrie. They nailed a late draft pick with Nico Collins. Then when they went and hired D'Amico Ryans and Slowick, they get their guys. We talked about this last week. Then you get Will Anderson Jr. and you trade for CJ Stroud, who were the offensive rookie player of the year and the defensive rookie player of the year on the same team, which will legitimately never happen ever again. You also nail a late round draft pick with Tank Dell. They traded for Laramie Tunsil before CJ Stroud got there, who is arguably a top 3 tackle in the entire league. They had a legitimate O-line coming in. You added Dalton Schultz. You had Jonathan Greenland, who actually went and got a bag this offseason. Like, so never everybody who's like saying like, well, if the Patriots just go to quarterback, they can look what happened with the Texans. They can get traded around. It's so easy to look at that in a scope and be like, okay, like that's what happened. That's going to happen for every single team that needs a quarterback. That is preposterous. It'll never happen ever again. So just fucking get that out of your heads.
Yeah. I mean, as this draft process, like as the draft has gotten closer and closer, I think like it was really easy just to say, oh yeah, like the Patriots are going to have, like, this is a good quarterback class. The Patriots are going to draft in the top 3, and this is the perfect time for them to get a quarterback. I'm looking back at some of these situations, like some of these drafts, 2022, like doesn't really like mean a whole lot to me because like the only quarterback was Kenny Pickett, but like I'm looking at this Trevor Lawrence situation with the Jaguars. He went into a brand new situation with a brand new head coach. Like this is that Jaguar situation is how
they went 1-16.
That's normally how these things tend to work out. Like the Texans situation on the graph is up and to the right infinity because you're going to rarely get a situation like that. Normally what's going to happen is you'll end up taking a quarterback and you'll be bad because one, it's a whole new coaching staff pretty much over there in New England. They don't have any other talent on this roster besides Christian Gonzalez. And it's just a terrible spot to put a brand new quarterback in. We saw it play out with like these 3 quarterbacks from 2021 until they got a competent head coach and they started to get some better players around Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, we watched it happen last season with Bryce Young.
Yeah, it's that Trevor Lawrence situation was bad. Zach Wilson to the Jets, bad. Trey Lance to the Niners, bad. Mac Jones to the Patriots, all like bad. Like
so that's what. Let me get back into it, and then you can continue.
Go ahead.
You brought up Mac Jones. You just bringing up Mac Jones circles this point back perfectly. They have not done a proper rebuild in New England since Tom Brady has left. And he left in 2019. That's a long time. Like, think about how long ago 2019 is. You take Mac Jones in the 2020 draft, you scrape by with a playoff one playoff appearance. Oh no, not 2021. They had Cam Newton in 2020. If the greatest coach in NFL history couldn't do anything with this current constructed roster, what makes you think a first-time head coach and a first-time GM stands a snowball's chance in hell in doing it? It's time to have a proper rebuild in New England. And I think that there's two things that jump out to me as well. Or one more thing. You take a quarterback at number 3, you automatically put the head coach and the GM on a ticking time bomb. If the quarterback doesn't hit, they are legitimately fired. There's no redoing the 3rd overall pick. It's not a 49ers situation where they figured it out because they had a supremely talented roster. So I think that what they should do is not put themselves on a time constraint already and be like, all right, let's take Drake May. And then it's like, okay, well, like if Drake May doesn't hit, I'm fired, you're fired, and this whole thing's getting blown up. Because a quarterback's just not going to succeed in this. We just watched what happened. So I think there's two things that they should do then. Either stay at 3 and take Joe Alt at tackle, because why not get a great tackle prospect and just dig in that O-line? Or this is the ultimate trade back candidate for the Vikings to move up and get Jaden Daniels or Drake May. Not JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels or Drake May. And that then gives it'll give them 2 picks in this year's draft. I think it'll give them a 2nd and then a 1st in next year's. I think they'll get a trade back and then 2 more first-round picks on top of it with 2 in this draft class, a 2nd in this, and then a 1st in next. So that gives them an opportunity to be like, okay, you trade back to 11 and 23. There's still tackles available and there's still wide receivers available. And then at the top of the 2nd round, they pick at number 34. I think that is the perfect opportunity to take a JJ McCarthy or to take a Bo Nix or to take a Michael Penix Jr. I think it'll be JJ McCarthy. But if you're sitting here telling me that the Patriots take JC Latham at 11, Brian Thomas Jr. at 23, and JJ McCarthy at 34, that's like a damn good,
pretty good draft.
That's a damn good start for guys and for a rebuilding roster, and just be like, okay, like we took a shot on a quarterback in the 2nd round. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not that big of a deal. But we traded back, got multiple assets, got a tackle, got a wide receiver, got a quarterback, and let's just see what could happen. So those are kind of my 2 proposals for the Patriots. Either take the top tackle, call it a day, and move on, and you're going to be bad next year and pick in the top 3 anyway, or trade back, get a tackle, get a wide receiver, get a quarterback, and you're probably going to be bad anyway and pick in the top 5 next year. So like, I think that you're just in a situation where it's like you can either get assets and still be bad or take a player and still be bad. I don't think there's any scenario where the Patriots are a successful football team next season.
So my devil's advocate to that situation is, would you rather be bad and have a quarterback that you feel good about going into the next season, or be bad and still have questions at the quarterback spot?
I'd rather be bad and have confidence that I am building something real. I don't think you could have the greatest quarterback ever, but if there's no O-line, he's going to get the absolute shit kicked out of him. So like, I don't think that like there is a scenario where you're going to build a young quarterback up in a situation where he's going to be empowered. They have no weapons for him to throw to, and they don't have a solid O-line for him to be protected. So why should I feel good that like, even if you get a quote unquote decent quarterback, that first year is going to do any good for him other than just harm? So I think what I'm ultimately thinking is like, I would rather be like, okay, because right now everybody's like, oh, like next year's quarterback draft class is so bad. I guarantee at this time next year, there's going to be 5 quarterbacks that everybody's super excited about. There always is. So like now you like look and you're like, okay, like we have assets to be able to be flexible. I think their current construction of their roster is like they need to aim on the side of like flexibility rather than being like, okay, like we have a quarterback that we feel like decent about moving forward.
Okay.
Because do you think that like dropping Caleb Williams onto the Patriots next year, he would be successful? Because I don't.
No, but I don't think you put any quarterback there. I mean, truthfully, Mahomes would struggle there if we're going to be completely honest.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
like I
trying
said,
to get at.
I was just playing. I was just trying to play devil's advocate though.
What do you think?
I was looking. I looked back to 2020, that draft class, which was like
Yeah, let's hear
Tua
it.
and Joe Burrow. So that at the end of that season for the Bengals. So as we said before, the Patriots pretty much don't have any talent on that roster, like outside of Christian Gonzalez. Like I mentioned, I think he's going to be phenomenal for them. But like I'm looking at the offense for Joe Burrow's rookie year. He had Giovanni Bernard, AJ Green, T. Higgins, Drew Sample, Ethan Carter. And then he had 3 starters on the offensive line that were 3 years or more. And then on defense, like they had a decent defense. They still had Jesse Bates, Von Bell, Sam Hubbard. So like they had some guys, and then you drop Joe Burrow in there, and they went 4-11. Obviously not great. 2020 Dolphins.
He also tore his ACL that year.
Correct. You've got Tua in there. The Dolphins offense, Myles Gaskin, Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, Mike Gesicki, Durham Smythe. Obviously, I don't think that's phenomenal, but like the Patriots had all of these guys, but 6 years older. So at the time, that's probably not bad, and it's probably better than what the Patriots have right now. And then on defense, like they had Christian Wilkins, they had Emmanuel Ogbah, they had Kyle Van Noy, and they had Xavier Howard. So like they were in a spot where they could kind of make up for having a rookie quarterback in there. And then to be fair, the Dolphins did a great job of this because they actually had 3 rookies starting on their offensive line that season. But again, and they had won 10 games, but they had I think from a roster standpoint, that roster was built better than the Dolphins for that season. But like neither one of those rosters or the Patriots roster is not anywhere close to that as far as those 2 teams go. So like it makes a little bit more sense for those 2 teams to take a guy in Joe Burrow and in Tua and let them kind of grow, because they had T. Higgins too. And then obviously Joe Burrow gets hurt. They ended up still getting a top pick, and that's when they got Jamar Chase. So like, yeah, it ended up working out, but they had other pieces that were like kind of foundational for the future, that they were like, okay, this is our time. We can take Joe Burrow, who had arguably one of the best college football seasons we've ever seen. They just won a national championship, won the Heisman. Obviously, we saw Jaden Daniels do that, but like it just feels different with Joe Burrow than with Jaden Daniels in my eyes.
Bro, this might be a scorching fucking hot take, but like
that LSU team was also disgusting.
And I'm not trying to like make this a hot take, but like Joe Burrow is like super unreliable. Like there's been 2 seasons now where he's completely
I'm not even talking Joe Burrow. I'm just talking about the situation that he got put into was better than the situation that any quarterback would get put into in New England.
Oh, no doubt.
It was my point.
I just think ultimately like getting a rookie quarterback in the situation where like they're like, and then everybody was like, well, like, oh, like he wouldn't play right away. Like, just let him sit. Like, if you take a quarterback at 3, he is expected to play automatically. He's supposed to be a game changer for your franchise, not sit behind Jacoby Brissett for a year. So I completely disagree with that notion, like where people are like, oh yeah, like just let him sit, just let him sit. No, that's not what you do. You play that guy. So if you don't have a situation where you're taking a quarterback at 3 and feel comfortable with having him start right away, then you should be taking a quarterback at 3. I think if you wanted to go at 34 because they had the 34th pick in the draft and take a quarterback then, I would not fault them for that. I think that would be a great move. And if they felt like he could play at any point in the season, then that is completely fine. If they're like, well, let's wait until the bye week to have him play.
If the Patriots are still in a top 5 pick within 2 to 3 years, I would say then I would feel okay with them taking a quarterback. I think until then they need to depending on what they do in the offseason and free agents and stuff. I still think that they need to go out and just build up this roster as much as they can. So I think I honestly, I think trading might be their best move, because I think that could give them even more draft capital, and they just really need all the help that they can get.
And
there's so many good tackles too. Like you can get a good tackle. I mean, shit, at like 25.
Yeah, and bro, they missed on this offseason already. They missed on free agency. There's nothing to talk about with free agency anymore. The two guys
I'm just saying
the two guys that they wanted, the two guys that they wanted in free agency, they penny pinched and missed out on. Like they didn't get Calvin Ridley, they didn't get Christian Wilkins, like because they were trying to save pennies on the dollar. It's like, no, like everybody was like, oh, Calvin Ridley went to Tennessee because his girlfriend didn't want to live in wherever. It's like, no, like if the Patriots were offering the most money, I would guarantee you that Calvin Ridley would be in New England right now, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley missed a full season's worth of pay.
Yeah. All right. Well,
yeah, I think
that's what I got. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that they should probably hold off another 2 to 3 years to draft a quarterback.
Or even next.
I mean,
next season,
Drew Allar is going to be ready to go.
Shut up. That guy sucks.
I knew you were going to say that, and yes, he does.
I can't even. The guy can't throw the football. He literally can't throw the ball.
It's ugly.
I've never heard a fan base sit there for an entire offseason and tell me how great this guy was at throwing the fucking football. And then when it came time to actually do it, he was a complete fucking no-show.
It was bad.
The coaches didn't trust him to do shit. They need Sean Clifford back.
That guy could sling it. They need Christian Hackenberg back. They need 2016 Christian 2014 Christian Hackenberg.
Bro, fucking Hack's got 1 year of eligibility left.
What is he, 30?
Mm-hmm.
Bring him in. But no, I agree with you. I think the Patriots need to just acquire as much capital and just try to get as many like foundational pieces that they possibly can if they want to give the next quarterback in there a legitimate chance. Because you can't like with what they have, it's almost impossible to figure out what you have at the quarterback position if they were to take one. Like the guy's going to be running around for his life. He doesn't have any wide receivers that are worth mentioning, and like you're just going to get this kid beaten to the ground. I mean, no offense to Jacoby Brissett, like that's going to happen to him, but like at least if you go out there and take like Joe Alt, like you're on the right track, and because I think he's going to be great. But
yeah, I think it just goes back to kind of like what we were talking about with like the Cardinals as well. Is like there's a point where you just have to take players that like make sense, and like
yes,
it's not always as attractive or whatever.
It's not the pretty pick to take an offensive lineman when you have Jaden Daniels or Drake May sitting there.
But like we sit here and talk, Russillo talked about it this week where he said that like, oh yeah, like there's 4 quarterbacks that we really like. He was like, okay, well 3 of them are going to be on new teams in 3 years. So like it's just kind of like we always think that like these guys are all going to be smash hits, but like reality, like probably
One will be good.
over half of them will not pan out in the NFL. And we've seen time after time these positions of need do pan out in the NFL. And I'm not saying like never take a quarterback or whatever. I just think that like there are certain circumstances where you take a quarterback and you don't take a quarterback, and the Patriots are in one right now where you do not want to take a QB.
I mean, shit, the Packers and the Eagles both drafted quarterbacks in years that they realistically didn't need to draft a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw how that played out for both of those teams. They both have what is expected to be their quarterbacks of the future. But at the time, they had plenty of good talent around, like on their roster. So it just goes to show, like, you got to have something, you got to have a little bit of something there before you invest in arguably the most important position on the field.
And one last thing, we talked about this a little bit last week, but I just think it's important to like reiterate on it. There was quite literally in the history of the NFL draft, I said this, never ever has 4 quarterbacks have gone 1 through 4. And then I looked it up. The times that it's gone 1 through 3 has happened 3 times in the entire history of the NFL draft. So if we're just basing this shit
2021, I think.
Yeah, if we're just straight basing this shit off history, it's
I'll take
not
my
looking
chances
too
in there not being 4 quarterbacks taken in a row.
The 4 Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance. Yeah, you're right. But then like that draft's weird. Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle went 6th. Like you just never know what's gonna happen in these drafts, bro. Like it's just I guess we're gonna see what happens. I think we were supposed to have Caden. I think we were supposed to have Caden and his boy on, but Caden never really followed up with me and or talked to me about it since. So if somebody wants to actually make a real like push to come on and like do it, like show the initiative to do it, I'm not gonna hunt you down. No disrespect, obviously, but I'm always open to it. But like you kind of have to be on me because I'm gonna forget because I'm doing 15 other things. But real quick, my favorite bet on the board this weekend for UFC 300 right now is Charles Oliveira by submission. It's plus 460. I put $25 on it. He is my favorite UFC fighter. He always chokes everybody out. I've hit on him by submission like the last 4 fights. So yeah, like I'm rolling with Charles Oliveira. He got hurt and had to back out, but I love that guy.
Against Arman Sarukin.
I don't know. I don't even know who that is. No clue.
He's somebody from Armenia.
So I have no clue who the hell he is, but I just based on me hitting bets, I always hit on the Charles Oliveira by submission for some reason.
Bro, I'm looking at this at the UFC website right now, and I have the card pulled up. Bro, you have to like. There's 2 guys on here that look like created players.
Yeah.
The one is the one bull in the prelim for the featherweight, Aljamain Sterling.
You don't
looks
know who,
like a create.
He just fought. He's good. He used to hold the title. He just lost to Sean O'Malley recently.
Oh, okay. Well, beats me. And then this other guy, Jiri, I don't even know, but he's got like he looks like he has a Roblox beard, and then he has like a ponytail just on the top of his head.
Well,
and then there's Bo Nickel minus 2,100. So put $0 on him because it's not going to make you any money because that line is just so stupid. Because he's going to just unless there's like a win within 30 seconds, that's probably the only line that's worth taking when Bo Nickel fights. This would probably be his last fight until he actually gets to face somebody like worth fighting.
Bro,
Until then, he's just going to keep beating the fuck out of these guys.
Honestly, I'm to the point now where like I might just bet against him and just
see what happens. Like
see
hope somebody lands one.
See if he wins. I mean, it's just the UFC. Listen, I'm not sitting here claiming to be like a UFC expert or anything like that.
Me neither.
But it always seems to feel like that, like massive favorites, like always somehow lose, and then like you have like that one person who threw like $25 on it who like won $1,000, and it's like, well, why did I do that? Like
you're trying to be that guy.
It just seems like it happens more times than not. And like where like somebody has been like quote unquote unbeatable and they've been beat.
Yeah, I mean that definitely happens. We see that across the board in sports, but it's always the one that you're least expecting. So if you do bet on that guy against Bo, good luck.
You got anything else for me?
I don't think so. Actually, I just want to say that I've had this Yankees game on the whole time. My Yankees are looking good after what is it, 13 games? A lot of people counted us out after 13.
There's literally like, bro, baseball is.
No, there was legitimately a lot of people that were like, the Yankees are going to struggle without Garrett Cole, and these guys have stepped up. They're looking like they're going to lose tonight, but they swept the Astros. They lost 1 to the Diamondbacks. They lost 1 to the Blue Jays, and they've taken 2 so far against the Marlins, but Marlins are terrible. Those other 3 teams are good. So I'm happy with the way this season started. Obviously, I have so much ball left, but
all of it.
Literally all of it.
Like all of the baseball's been left to play.
So much. But listen, if you can win a couple games with your best pitcher not throwing at all, that's a good start.
I'm sure that'll make Nick Marquardt happy. He's a big Yankees fan.
Yeah, I think I knew that. He's definitely got to be thrilled with the way that we started. Nick, let me know what you think if you see this. But that's all I got for you.
Yeah, my Diamondbacks are looking good too.
I thought you were an Astros fan.
I haven't watched one game. I don't really care. I just like going to the games.
The games are fun. The games are fun. But yeah, that's all I got for you.
Bird. I'm about to.
I think next week we need to go over your quarterback list that you tweeted out.
Sounds great. I'm just giving the people listen.
I'll come up with my list too.
Listen, just because everybody just sits around and bro, it's so mindless to make a top 10 like wide receiver list, like where it's like, oh, Tay Adams, like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tay Adams, like Tyreek Hill, like that's mindless. Like it doesn't take much effort to do it. It's pretty consensus. Like everybody thinks the top 10 wide receivers are the top 10 wide receivers. Like there's really not much like disagreement like across the board. Like the disagreement might be like, I want somebody at 8 instead of 7. Like
there's probably going to be like 2 or 3 guys that there's like there's probably 8 guys that 95% of people will have in their top 10 list.
Yes.
But that's that's okay. That's all right. Like that's
not. I just think it's boring.
That's fair.
And and then it gives you like absolutely like nothing to talk about.
I agree with you. I do think it's boring, but
like we talked for a whole hour today.
Yeah, about an hour 40 actually.
About no, like about like what I said for my receivers.
Yeah,
because it actually enthralled some sort of conversation rather than just nothing.
Yeah, because if it was just 10 straight, like obvious ones, it would have been no fun.
It just wouldn't have been a conversation to be had.
That's right.
All right, brother.
All right. Till next time.